Hey, my name is Guillermo, and today I'll be showing you how to create a GitHub repository and upload all of your project files into your repository and update your README file so that you can be able to submit your code path assignment. All right, so the first step we're going to do is go ahead and download GitHub Desktop. You can see the link above, which is desktop.github.com. In the meantime, while you have this downloading, let's go ahead and go on to the next steps while that completes. The next steps are going to be to create our GitHub repository. So I'm going to go to github.com and I'm going to go to my profile right here. And the next step is to go ahead and click on your repositories menu, which is located next to your overview. So I clicked on my repository section and I'm going to go ahead and create a new repository. Now in this menu, it's going to ask us a couple of things about our repository. First, we're going to give it a pre-work, a repository name. In this case, I'm going to call it CodePath pre-work. And as a description, it's always good practice to have a description about your project. In this case, it could be, for example, a tip calculator or a to-do list. Whatever it is you think might be best to help others understand what your project is all about. In my case, I'm just going to put CodePath pre-work project. And I'll make sure that it's public. That way everybody can view it. And also the graders of CodePath are able to view my project and be able to grade it. Next, we're going to initialize it with a README file, and I'll explain in a bit what the README file is later on. Don't worry about it for now. And we're going to go ahead and finally click Create Repository. All right. If that was successful, you should be prompted with a new screen that shows your pre-work repository. You can see the name at the top and also a couple of other menu buttons located below it. Now, we're not going to go into so much detail about that right now. You'll learn more about them in the course, but for now, we notice that there's no project files here. So we need to figure out how to upload our pre-work, which is right here. This is where I worked on my pre-work project. I need to find a way that I can upload all of that into my GitHub repository. So now we need to connect this into our own computer. How do you do that? Well, going back to the first step, which is downloading GitHub. By now, GitHub Desktop should be downloaded on your computer. And let's go ahead and open GitHub Desktop. I'm searching up for the application, but you should be able to see it on your own computer as well once it finishes downloading or installing. And this should be the first thing that you see, unless you've already used it before, of course. And I'm going to go ahead and sign in to my GitHub account. And I'm going to click yes, open. Cool. So use my GitHub account name. Yep, that looks fine to me. And finish. Awesome. So now we need to connect our repository into our computer, and we're going to use GitHub Desktop to do that for us. You'll notice that some of your repositories are already located here, and I'm going to go ahead and search up for pre-work. Here it is, Membriux CodePath pre-work. I'm going to go ahead and clone that. Now, you don't have to worry about this link right here. You should leave that alone. This just explains which repository to clone. It's already pre-filled for you. But the local path, you should definitely pay attention where it is going to be saved. In this case, I noticed that it's going to be saved in my documents and then GitHub and CodePath pre-work. But for the sake of me trying to see where it is, I'm going to save it on my desktop, somewhere around here. I'm going to click on where, desktop, and there we go. So it's going to save in my desktop instead of my documents. But this one, you can choose wherever you want to save it. You don't have to follow exactly as I'm doing it here. This is just for my own preference. I'm going to go ahead and clone it now. And you've noticed that my CodePath pre-work folder has been created, which is right here. This is the folder that's connected to this repository. Now we're going to figure out how to connect our project files into our repository. The next step we're going to do here is to copy over our project files into our repository. So as you remember, this is my original folder where I was working on my project. So what I'm going to do is transfer all of these files over to my CodePath pre-work folder. And this is where my pre-work repository lives. So as you noticed, I transferred over my original work into my pre-work repository. All right, make sure to not get those confused. Cool, now that I know that my work is in my repository, I can go ahead and close Finder. And if you go back to GitHub Desktop, you'll notice a bunch of things going on here. You'll notice that there's a check mark and a little file name on top of it with a little plus sign. This just means that there is a new file added to your repository. Once you know all the files have been added, you can go ahead and add a summary of what you did. Added pre-work files to repository. Your message can be anything you want, but the message has to be required, so it won't let you save your work unless you put a message. And this is crucial so that you know what you've been doing throughout the course of working on your project. For me, I added this message, but it can be whatever you like to be. Now that I finished adding that message, I'm going to go ahead and commit to main. And next, you'll see this prompt that says push to origin. You can click here, or you can click here as well. Both of those will work. Let's go ahead and push our work now to our repository. Cool, so now if it was pushed successfully, you should see your screen back to this one. And to confirm, I'm going to go back to the website and refresh our repository. Here it is. Now we can see that my folders from the work that I completed are there. Let's go ahead and take a quick look, and I can definitely see that my work has been added there successfully. I see my assets folder, my app delegate, my view controller, etc. Cool. So now we have successfully added our pre-work files into our repository successfully using GitHub Desktop. Next step, you're going to be learning how to update your README file. Now to update the README file, I'm going to go into my pre-work repository, and you'll notice that there's this file called readme.md. I'm going to go ahead and update this. And while that is loading, I'm going to go back to the pre-work, and I'm going to download my tip calculator README template. This template contains the information that I must submit to my project before it is successfully submitted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all of this information, and I'm going to paste that in my README file right here. There we go. Once that is added, make sure to do the following to-dos on your app. That way you'll be able to successfully complete the application and submit it for work. Don't remember to leave those X's for those requirement functionalities that you completed. That way we know that you completed those. And you add a video walkthrough, which are explained in the other video tutorials. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and save this. And let's go back to our GitHub repository. This time, you'll notice that there's a little orange square, and it says modified. This is to tell the user that this file was not added, but instead it was modified, it was updated. And you can see in red that these are the lines of code that I deleted, and these were the lines of code that were added. And the way you can tell which one is which is by looking at the plus signs or the minus signs, as well as the color of it. Green means that it's new code, red means that it's code that was deleted. Once that is done, I'm going to go ahead and put my message before I save my work, updated README, and I'm going to commit and push. Now, if we go back to our repository, this README should be updated once this is done. Cool, this is done. Let's go ahead and refresh our GitHub repository. Nice. Cool, we can see that those squares that were marked with an X are showing with a little check mark. That's perfect. And if you want to continue on with the optional features, which we highly recommend doing, please go ahead and do so. And in the meantime, stay tuned for the next tutorials.